In 1884, in a grand hall in Berlin, the most audacious land grab in human history is underway. 14 European powers and no African leaders. Not one. They gathered around a map, drawing lines with rulers, not knowledge, carving up a continent like a cake. They called it the Scramble for Africa. But you cannot scramble for what is not yours. This was the ultimate act of arrogance, the belief that they had the right to decide the future of millions of people, their cultures, and their kingdoms. But in their arrogance, they made a fatal miscalculation. They assumed the land on the map was empty, passive, waiting to be claimed. They were wrong. They were about to meet the fire of defiance. In West Africa, a brilliant strategist was building an empire. Samori Touré, the founder of the Wassoulou Empire. A military genius so formidable, the French called him the African Napoleon. But Samori was not imitating anyone. He was a visionary in his own right. For nearly 2 decades, Samori fought the French to a standstill. How? He didn't just fight with spears. He innovated. He created a professional army, trained them in modern infantry tactics, and, most crucially, he built his own armories to manufacture and repair his own rifles and even produce his own gunpowder. He understood that to resist a modern power, you needed modern means. When the French advanced with overwhelming force, Samori employed a scorched earth tactic. He ordered his people to retreat and burn everything, crops, villages, leaving the French with nothing to capture and no food to eat. It was a heartbreaking strategy, a testament to the immense cost of freedom. He fought for 17 years, only being captured because he was betrayed. But his legacy was clear. Africa would not be easily subdued. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Ashanti kingdom, the British had committed an unforgivable act. They demanded the Golden Stool, the sacred spiritual soul of the Ashanti nation. It wasn't just a throne, it was the embodiment of their very identity. The British governor, Lord Hodgson, arrogantly asked, "Where is the Golden Stool? Why am I not sitting on it?" The Ashanti king and other male leaders were exiled, their spirit broken. In a council of elders, as the men debated in fear, one voice cut through the silence. It was the voice of the Queen Mother, Asantewaa. Before her chiefs, she stood and declared, "Now I see that some of you fear to go forward to fight for our king. If you, the men of Ashanti, will not go forward, then we will. We, the women, will. I shall call upon my fellow women. We will fight. We will fight till the last of us falls on the battlefield." And so she did. Asantewaa, in her 60s, led the Ashanti rebellion, the War of the Golden Stool. She became the commander-in-chief, the strategist, the soul of her people's resistance. Though she was ultimately captured and exiled, the British never found the Golden Stool. The Ashanti people had protected their soul. Asantewaa proved that the spirit of defiance has no gender. While empires were falling across the continent, one nation was writing a different history. A history of victory. Ethiopia. Under the shrewd leadership of Emperor Menelik II, Ethiopia played the European powers against each other, acquiring modern rifles, artillery, and even the telephone. The Italians, believing they had tricked Menelik into a treaty that made Ethiopia their protectorate, decided to invade. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. Menelik and his empress, Taitu Batul, mobilized a massive army from across the empire. At the Battle of Adwa in 1896, they faced the Italian forces. This was not a skirmish. This was the defeat of a modern European army by an African force. Empress Taitu herself led her own cavalry and famously cut off the Italians' water supply. The Ethiopian victory was total and unequivocal. Italy was humiliated. Ethiopia's sovereignty was secured, making it a beacon of hope and pride for all of Africa and the entire Black world. Adwa was proof. Colonization was not inevitable. Long before Berlin, the spirit of military resistance was forged in the fires of southern Africa by the Zulu kingdom. Shaka Zulu revolutionized warfare, creating the Impi, a highly disciplined army organized around the short stabbing spear and the bullhorn formation. This legacy of fierce independence did not die with Shaka. It lived on in his successors. At the Battle of Asantewaa in 1879, a massive Zulu force, using the tactics honed by Shaka, overwhelmed and annihilated a well-equipped British army. It was one of the worst defeats the British Empire ever suffered. Though the Zulu would eventually be defeated by the sheer, relentless force of the British Empire, the Battle of Asantewaa sent a shockwave through the colonial world. It was a brutal reminder that the cost of conquest would be paid in blood. The Zulu fought not as subjects, but as proud warriors defending their homeland. After World War II, the face of colonialism changed, and so did the face of resistance. In Kenya, the British had stolen the most fertile land, the White Highlands, pushing the Kikuyu people into poverty. Peaceful protests were met with violence and contempt. Out of this injustice rose a militant nationalist movement, the Mau Mau. Primarily from the Kikuyu community, they took oaths to demand their land and freedom back. The British response was savage. They declared a state of emergency and created a system of concentration camps where tens of thousands were tortured, abused, and killed. The Mau Mau uprising was brutal on all sides, a dirty, painful war. But it shattered the myth of the civilizing colonizer. It exposed the brutal violence at the heart of the colonial project. Though militarily suppressed, the Mau Mau resistance so strained the British Empire that it accelerated the journey to Kenyan independence. Their sacrifice, born of desperation, became the painful price of freedom. By the mid-20th century, the wind of change was blowing. Nations were gaining independence. But the fight was no longer just with guns. It was with words, with ideology, with a vision for the future. And no voice was more powerful or more threatening to the old powers than that of Patrice Lumumba. At the Congo's independence ceremony in 1960, the Belgian King Baudouin gave a patronizing speech praising his own ancestors' genius and civilizing mission. Then, Patrice Lumumba, the newly elected prime minister, took the podium. He did not read the prepared text. He spoke the words that would seal his fate. "We have known the backbreaking work, the insults, the blows that we endured morning, noon, and night because we were Negroes. We have seen our lands seized in the name of allegedly legal laws, which in fact recognized only that might be right. We have seen that the law was not the same for a white and for a black. And now, we are no longer your monkeys." In that moment, Lumumba did what colonizers feared most. He told the truth. He reclaimed Congo's history and its dignity. For this, he was marked. The CIA and Belgian intelligence plotted against him. He was arrested, tortured, and brutally murdered months later. They killed the man, but they could not kill the truth he spoke. Lumumba became a martyr for Pan-Africanism, a symbol of the unyielding demand for true sovereignty, not just a flag and an anthem. The resistance never ended. From the warrior kings and queens who fought with spears and scorched earth, to the Mau Mau who fought in the forests, to the voices like Lumumba, who fought with truth. This is the real story of Africa and colonization. It is a story of defiance. The Berlin Conference drew lines on a map, but it could not draw lines on the human spirit. The legacy of these resistors is not just in the battles they won or lost. It is in the unbroken chain of sovereignty in Ethiopia. It is in the independent nations that exist today. It is in the spirit of every African and every person who stands up and says, "My land, my culture, my life, and my future are not yours to take." They thought they were inviting themselves to a feast. Instead, they walked into a fire that still burns today. This story of defiance deserves to be heard around the world. Like this video if you believe true history must be told. Share it to break the chains of silence and spread this powerful legacy. Subscribe to our channel and tap the bell notification so you never miss the next chapter in our journey to reclaim history. The story continues, and your voice is part of it now. Join us.